Next is the canal at Whitneyville, where the logs come to Machias by the Whitneyville Mills. This is the dam at Whitneyville and the Sullivan Mills burner. Frank Hammond and Charlie Handy are sorting logs for the lower mills. From the top of the mill, you see different pockets of the mill pond where spruce, pine, and hemlock are sorted. I am standing on a log, but I picked out a good big one. Note these children in their bathing suits, the river drivers of the future. These suits are not the kind that would be worn at Palm Beach, but they clear the law. Harwood Mills were built by Dr. Harwood of Boston, who was a member of the Boston Mill and Land Company. There used to be 2 mills with 4 single saws. In 1858, the Pope brothers of East Machias purchased these mills, and my father was sent over here to manage them. They've been under his hand in my charge since that date. The old fellow with the pick pole feeding the logs up onto the slip is Harrison Foss. These reels were taken partly by Dr. Kane of Washington, D.C. He had a modern, up-to-date camera, and I could not get such good views with the cheap one that I'd purchased. The logs are going up the slip on a chain. We will now go into the mill. Notice the log kicker throwing the logs off the live roll. We are now rolling the logs onto the bandsaw carriage. When the log comes back, it is turned down on the skid. This is the back side of the bandsaw. The sawed lumber coming off the live rolls, pine boards 16 inches wide, the square-edged boards going through the edger. That is the way we get them out on the loading platform. The live edge boards have to be edged. The saws are set on a shaft with guides which pull them back and forth to make 6, 8, or 10-inch boards. Now you will see the trimmer. We are now cutting edgings. Mac McBride has some job to keep the rolls clear of the lumber. We are getting out 10 by 12 timber for bridge frames. Will Hanscom is edging shingles. We are now sawing laths from large edgings which come off the side of the plank. We are now sawing clapboards, made from the sound log 18 inches in diameter and up, and sawed on the bed mill into bolts 50 inches long. The bark and sapwood is turned off, and the bolt is made symmetrical. A couple of hooks are fastened down to this bolt and then swung around to the clapboarding machine. Notice the saw is underneath. The bolt is dropped down onto the saw, and it saws towards the center, about 6½ inches. In sawing clapboards from the circumference towards the center, it makes one edge thick and the other thin, same as a pie cut out at a church supper. This is the expensive part of the mill where the bandsaw is filed. The bandsaw used in our mill is 48 feet long, 9 inches wide, 14 gauge, and 1¼ inch tooth. The men are putting the dull saw on the floor and taking the sharp one off the grinding machine. Notice the sparks fly from the emery wheel on the filing machine. Jim Mealy is the filer. To file, he simply points up the tooth with the file. These saws have to be rolled, hammered, and tensioned. It is some job to make one run perfect. Next is loading timber from the loading platform, an order of 1¼ by 10 spruce for the Portsmouth Navy Yard. Next shows loading lath. Here I am with Dr. Howard Kane. Dr. Kane is a Machias boy and now a most successful practicing physician in Washington, D.C. Round the mill yard, all the houses are owned by millmen who've worked for my father, brother, and me for the past 50 years. They all own their own homes, and they're very comfortable.